Okay, everybody, back here at the car once again. Guess what? It's time for a rant video. Alright, so what's going on? Well, I say maybe a couple to a few months ago by this point, I was actually noticing something. The first thing I noticed was, this is the expansion tank for the engine coolant, and I had noticed that the level in the tank was getting lower over time. Now, immediately that makes you think, okay, well, that shouldn't be happening. It's supposed to be a closed system. Well, the first thing I had noticed was, this right here is a vent tube. What this is supposed to do is, if ever the tank gets under too high of a pressure, there's supposed to be a valve in this cap here that comes up and allows the excess pressure to come out of the tube. And it was doing that for a while. So I'm thinking, okay, the tank is venting. Why is it doing that? So the first thing I did was, one thing I did do was I got a new cap because, I mean, the original cap was, well, over 20 years old by that point. And I figured, okay, it's probably not seating very well. And maybe what I'll also do is, since I was going to add more coolant, I wanted to do it in a different way than I had previously done before. So what I would do is, I would take the cap off with the engine cold, of course. And then what I do is I put a funnel in, take some coolant, put it up to the proper level in the tank. And then what I would do is I would leave the cap off and start the engine, because I figured if the engine needs any coolant, this will allow it to draw it in, and then it'll just recycle like it normally does. Well, when I did do that, it actually had, the coolant level had actually gone down halfway. No, I don't mean halfway between, you can't really see it from this angle, I don't mean halfway between the full and low marks, I mean halfway down the entire tank. So that engine needed some serious amount of coolant, so I was like, oh wow, okay, so I guess it got what it needed. So then, while the engine was still running, I topped the tank back up, put the cap back on, drove around, heat was hot, level's good, everything's good. Well, lo and behold, the level started going down again. And so I'm like, what is going on now? Well, I didn't see any signs of it venting from the tube here, so that wasn't happening. So one day when I was coming home from my brother's place, he has this like brick thing on the side of his driveway where cars can park in case, he wants to keep the driveway clear. So I leave his house one night and I pull back and I see a wet spot on the brick, which looked to be about the size of, I'd say either a tennis ball or a baseball, one of those, just about that size. So I'm like, okay, great. So I'm like, let's see what happens when I go home. So I go home, get in here, and I look under the car, and then sure enough, I see a small puddle in this area over here. Now, puddles can happen because we have an epoxy, let me say that again. We have an epoxied garage floor, so the water never goes through the concrete. It gets repelled up. And those puddles can happen when, for example, the car is, let's say it just came in from a huge rain and the water drips off onto the floor. That can happen. But this was a stretch of dry weather, so that wasn't the case. So I'm looking all over. I look at the expansion tank, I look at the hoses, I look at the radiator. Like, I'm not seeing anything. So then it got me to thinking of one other part. Now, I just want to show you guys something first. You may remember this from a while ago. Here's the container of an old timing belt, an old water pump, and all its parts, right? Some of you may remember this water pump, right? Okay. Well, guess what? This is not the original water pump. This is the water pump that was put in 2018. Yes, that's right. A 3-year-old water pump started leaking. That is unbelievable. All right, I know things aren't made like they were back when, but still, a part like this, which as you can see, is not easy to get to because it's a transverse mounted V6. So this part started leaking after 3 years and roughly 30,000 miles. Now, the original water pump that you saw in the 2018 video, that lasted 19 years and 99,000 miles. So quite a difference there, huh? Now, admittedly, I don't regret replacing that water pump because when I can't really do it on camera here. Well, I kind of can. When I turn the pulley for this water pump, this is definitely turning easier than the original water pump. So I mean, that one was definitely good to get replaced because, the car was reaching 100,000 miles. So I figured, hey, now's a good time to change the timing belt on the water pump, and I did just for maintenance. And I got this new one on there, and after 3 years, it decided to leak. So as you can see, all of that timing belt and all those pulleys, all right, these are from 2018. So they're not even that old at all. In fact, here, I'll put the water pump on the floor. Yeah, here's the timing belt that they put on. You can see, it definitely doesn't, it looks less glazed on the smooth side. So you can definitely tell this one, I don't have the other one for comparison, but you can definitely tell this was not as worn as the other one was. And here's all the pulleys. I mean, even the hydraulic piston for the tensioner pulley, that still looks kind of new for 3 years old. And all these pulleys, they spin fine. Here's, some idler pulleys. Here's the tensioner pulley itself, which still spins very freely, as you can see. So, again, I had this in the car for 3 years, and of course, it fails. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? Now, what was I going to say here? Sorry. Now, again, the water pump, for this car at least, the water pump and the timing belt come in a kit. In fact, it came in this box right here that's on the floor. So, basically, since it comes in a kit, they're already inside the front of the engine and everything. Yep, I said they didn't charge me extra for it, but still, when they put on the new water pump, they also put on another new timing belt and all new pulleys. So again, everything in there is new, and the garage floor has been dry. If you saw any puddle before, that was just from residual coolant, trust me on that. So now everything's dry once again, new timing belt, new water pump, coolant level hasn't changed. So does this mean in another 3 years, provided I still have the car in 3 more years, is this just going to happen again? Like, if it was a minor part, that'd be fine. Now, granted, the water pump is necessary because it runs coolant through the engine and prevents it from overheating. But on an engine like this, that's a very involved job. Just to get to this, you could see all this stuff that you have to take off. 3 years old and the water pump went bad. Looks like it might have leaked from the gasket, it looked like, if you want me to show that. It looks kind of wet around this edge here. I don't know if you could see that. And as far as I can see on the weep holes, there's one right there. And is that the same one? Hold on. One right there between those things. And okay, maybe there's just one on this water. Okay, there's just one on this water pump. I think my original one had 2. But I don't see any. It doesn't look like any coolant was coming from there. But it looks kind of wet along here. You see that? I'm wondering if there's some kind of seal here behind the pulley that went bad. And this could just be surface rust or something. I don't know. But yeah, like, do you see that there? Like, I don't know if that's where it came from, but after only 3 years and 30,000 miles, I had to have this whole service done again. And the parts aren't all that bad, but the labor, you can imagine the labor is way up there. It just infuriates me how, stuff that's made today, and for something for this function, it's like after 3 years, I'm done, see you later. Unbelievable. It just, the lack of quality control today is just something else. So yeah, just for the heck of it, I'm going to hold on to these parts like I did with the original ones from 2001. These are from 2018. So, and there is actually one thing, guys, I do want to stress here, okay? Now, as you know, I noticed there was a problem with the coolant in the tank itself, not when it got so bad, where the engine was overheating. Okay, if you own a car, I'd say every week, okay, maybe not every week, but once every 2 weeks, check anything liquid. Like, check your engine oil, the coolant, the transmission fluid, the brake fluid. Check all that stuff at least once every 2 weeks. So that way, if you notice the level seems to be lower than it was before, you can tell if something is wrong nice and early on, and not to the point where something could fail catastrophically, especially the engine or transmission. Now again, I noticed something was wrong just by the level of the coolant. The engine never overheated, it never ran hot, nothing. That's why I say, when you have a car, check everything, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, because you never know. If you see something is lower than it used to be, you could potentially be having a problem that thankfully you found earlier, so it's easier to fix than further down the road. All right, because think about it. As expensive as it was to get a new water pump and a new timing belt again, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than replacing an entire engine. So that is one thing you have to consider, all right? So don't just always assume everything is okay and never check it, because when you least expect it, something could be wrong. Anyway, that's it, guys, all right? So the car's fine. Like, again, has new timing belt and new water pump and everything, but just only after 3 years and 30,000 miles had to get a part replaced for the engine. That's, kind of involved to get to. just the quality of the way things are today. Now, who knows? Maybe this new water pump will last longer than that one. Maybe it was bad to begin with from the factory. Who knows? But it's just so annoying, again, when an important part like that doesn't have a long life. So we'll see. But everything's fine. New parts are in. Hopefully they'll last longer than this one did. We'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care.